So my father was in the army, and a real, he loved his country, and he would have given his life for his country. And he stayed in a wonderful place, in some small, what do you call small?
Was it like
a castle, small castle.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where they were living at that time. And as a matter of fact, they invited us to come to that castle. And it was really nice because they treated us like anything. So then eventually, when that was done, the Germans were settled, he came back home. And so that's, so his life went to work every day, we went to school every day, the same thing. But, well, to tell you about the life during the war was not easy because, as I said, we were young children, and we lived in a place that was called Villa Park, beautiful place to live, and there were quite a few children. So my father and mother kept us busy with bicycling and going to different sports and stuff like that, because what can we do? We couldn't go very far, and well, at that time, we would have a bicycle, for instance, and they would steal them. My father would get a new bicycle for us, and they would steal them.
Who's they? The Germans?
Germans, right. Or people.
Yeah, they would confiscate the bicycles there.
Yeah. Well, and also, in the beginning, there was a time that they wanted all the copper that we had. They wanted copper for the belts, or for the guns, whatever it was. And my father hid all of that in a wall somewhere in our house. But we knew that they had also a radio, because we could hear as children, from their closet. That's where he had the radio.
Who had the radio?
My father.
Your father had.
And mother would be listening.
And that was forbidden
absolutely
you could be shot for
that's right.
for listening to the BBC, for example.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So I guess then he eventually put that radio in his office. I think. I'm not 100% sure, because, as I say, we were going to school, and you weren't supposed to know anything. How many people were hidden in the homes nearby. And, well, what did we actually know? But we knew that Mr. So-and-so was hidden because he did a lot of underground work. So, of course, we had coupons for our food and stuff. My mother had, when the Germans came, a little supply of coffee, maybe chocolate, and a few things. But when we got the coupons, my mother, because she had diabetes, she couldn't get sugar, but she got butter. So each of us children would get a little dish this much, once a week. And you better keep it until Sunday, otherwise you won't have any butter on your bread. Tea was not there, you had a pill. Coffee, forget it. Because last night I saw the story about Anne Frank, and I said, she's pouring coffee. Well, they were Jewish people, so you don't know how things went on there, So it was hard, and my father had some very good friends who were farmers, one of the biggest farmers in our city, and outside the city, and they treated my father like marvelous, wonderful, because I guess he did a lot of work for him. And those people helped us so much, was unbelievable. And I have to try to get back. Okay, also, my father had a dear friend who was taken by the Germans, but he maybe got out or something. But my father made sure that he would get onderduiker, which means that he was off the road, off normal life, but he was with the farmer who took care of him.
Yes. Yeah.
And apparently that captain, he was captain, he was kind of talkative. And apparently he did get, was a German man, a German soldier. And sure enough, a few days later, that farm got attacked by the Germans. Yeah. And they fought. The mother, I'll never forget her. She would push that door and so that guy could get out. Because if he didn't, you know, they would have killed him, right. The Germans. Yeah. And so I remember the next morning we saw him walking in the street as we were going to church, and went like this, you know. So how that actually finished, what happened to that man, I don't know. But the farmer, they were so wonderful for us. And my father had another friend who was a pharmacist. So, and my father was able, no, from the farm, he was able to get, it's a flower that makes oil. It's a yellow flower.
Yes, raps. The Germans call it raps.
Yeah. So this is how we had oil.
Rapeseed, I think is what we call it.
Yes. Right. So the farm made sure we had it, and the pharmacist made sure that we had oil. Yeah. Another thing was, of course, the bread and the milk and the fruit and whatever came by cart. You know, the guys had their own cart with a horse in front of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes my mother didn't have enough milk, so she sent us to other farmers in the neighborhood. And guess what? When we came home, we dropped the milk. So
oh no!
I mean, we were kids, you know. I mean, and on the bicycle, you know, we weren't the sweetest kids, but I mean, you know, when you're so young and you know what's going on. Right. And we had some wonderful farmers in the neighborhood. So, where am I now?
So you spoke about the farmers, and time kind of goes on. Did you or your family? I know that the Netherlands was often a rendezvous point for huge flights of American bombers that would pass overhead on their way.
And we could hear it. Yeah. We could hear it.
Right.
We knew this is German and the other one is English.
Oh.
Or British.
Right.
Or American.
Or American.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes. So, of course, we were always saying, when is that war over? And the Germans were getting so bad, the food was getting so bad. And at night, well, we had some friends who really went through a difficult time, who were all underground, but yet they got caught. For instance, one friend went to, they put him in a hospital, and they caught him there. The Germans caught him. Yeah. And that went on many, many times. And for instance, you know, the House of Orange.
Yes.
The House of the Netherlands is the House of Orange.
The House of Orange, right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Orange. So the students who were going to school, they would play with oranges. Well, that's all the Germans wanted to see, you know, and they shot many of those boys. Terrible, terrible. And of course the bombing that went on. At that time my father was, when he was picked up, I was on vacation in Utrecht. You know
in
Utrecht?
Yes, yeah.
And during that time my father, my mother, they were in bed. And my mother said, I hear there's a German truck there, they're coming for you. Sure enough, they came for him. Oh. So they took him to St. Michael's Castle in the same province where I was born. And that was a Dutch concentration camp. There were two, Vught and Michelsgestel. And so they took him. So my mother, who had diabetes, and we had a girl that was helping us, she was in the hospital. I remember that night when they bombed and we lost some friends. And actually we were out on the street because this girl didn't know very much. She was young. She was a maid, as you would call it. So, let me see. Yeah, those things were going on all the times. And we had to go to school, and many times when we were going to school during that time, the what goes off? The
air raid alarm.
Air raid alarm.
Right.
So you had to go
into the cellars there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
In the cellars, yeah. Many a night we spent in the cellar.
Now, why did they pick up your father? What was the reason that the Germans...
Because he was working for the underground.
Oh, so they had... How did he get... I mean, did he stay there as a prisoner in the camp until the end of the war?
No.
Oh.
The story is not finished.
Okay.
But of course, when we had to go down the cellar, there was only one gas mask for 6 children, the maid, and well, my mother was in the hospital. My father was then at St. Michelsgestel, yeah. And what happened, I had a terrible ear infection, one of the worst that needed to be operated on. So my mother tried to get in touch with the German, the top man, but they said, no, he can't come free until she dies. So I had to go through that, still suffer. That's why I'm deaf on this side.
Oh,
yes. But the Germans who loved Christmas, they gave my father a retreat, more or less. Let him go home because he had a family of 6. So that was nice. But another thing, his staff at the office, they loved my father. And he had been in touch with some Jewish people, some of our Jewish friends. And apparently, maybe that's how the Germans found out. But they knew he was busy underground. So they called it underground service.
Right.
Everybody knew what was happening then. And they knew that was going on. So when they came, my father was always very smart. He had a table, and under the table he had very important letters and stuff under the table. So they never found that. They never found that. But another wonderful thing happened, actually wonderful, I say. His staff had built him a little box like this, and it would go to the camp with food and stuff, whatever we had. And they would send it back. And in between they had a false
bottom for the box.
Can you imagine? And they never discovered it. Never. And I asked my nephew the other day, I said, whatever happened to that box? You know, I mean, that should have stayed. They should have kept it in a museum or something, a war museum. I mean, that was something so unusual. They never found out about that.
Well, yeah. What was put into that part of the false bottom of the box?
Well, I guess information.
Information,
yeah.
Right? Okay, yeah.
Tricky,
right?
But it worked. So then he that was Christmas, maybe before the Americans came. Yeah, I think. So let me see. That was that. I remember that we were going to school, and we had to hide in the cellar where the nuns lived. And we were such bad children because, you know, they have, what do you call it, something over. I don't know how to explain it, but it had holes on it, and we would go under there to see what the nuns were wearing, you know. We would
Right. Kind of like great.
You know, as children.
You must have been a very mischievous little girl.
All of us, believe me. Well, the youngest one, no. So anyhow, then of course we heard that, well, June 6th happened. You know. And
how did you hear about June 6th when you didn't have access to a radio and your father was in the camp? But somehow rumors...
Oh yes, of course.
Sure,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
right. The Allies had landed at Normandy.
Oh yes, yes. I've been there twice with both my husbands. Yeah, it was really something. So anyhow, we could... I don't know if he still had that radio or what, because we really didn't have much, you know, and so sometimes you would meet German soldiers, and they were good guys, but they had to go in the service.
Right.
Yeah, and of course these friends that we had, after my father had spoken with these friends, they picked them up. A family of 4, father, mother, two daughters, and another woman with her 2 kids. They picked them up.
Because they were associated with your father?
No.
No.
Well, no, because they were Jews.
Oh, because they were Jews.
They were Jews.
Oh, okay.
With that star.
Yeah, right, with the Star of
yeah.
David. Yes.
Yeah, we were actually not allowed to be with Jewish people. You know,
Right.
yeah, so that was terrible. That was so bad. But 1 or 2 of them came back.